So here we have our last unit, index number. Let's read its simple definition. An index number is the measure of change in a variable or a group of variables over a time. Index numbers are not directly measurable but represent general relative changes. They are typically expressed as percents. So they are unitless quantity. I can compare the price of two different commodities. It is typically used in economics to measure trend in a wide variety of areas, including stock market, prices, cost of living, industrial or agricultural production, and imports. Index numbers are one of the most used statistical tools in economics. So let's understand this by a small example. Suppose the price of some commodity changes from 100 to 120 rupees, and then from 120 rupees to 180 rupees. So here, just by looking at this information, we can tell that the price has hiked by 20% and 80% respectively. With respect to the initial price, so with respect to that initial price is our base price or reference price. So it becomes a relative thing, and we are talking about in percents, so it's a unitless quantity. We can compare two different commodities. Let's read further. It is situation like these or even more complex ones where the index numbers come in handy. An index number helps in calculation of percentage change in a phenomena with represent with respect to base parameter. So base parameter is our reference year or reference price. Now let's see features of index numbers. So the following are the main features of index number. Index numbers are special type of averages. Sometimes we find weighted averages or just simple average, whereas mean, median, and mode measure the absolute changes and are used to compare only those series which are expressed in the same units. So it says that we can compare two different units with this index number. We cannot use this mean, median, mode. The technique of index number is used to measure relative changes in level of phenomenon where the measurement of absolute change is not possible, and the series are expressed in different types of item. Second feature is index number are meant to study the changes in effects of such factors with which cannot be measured directly. So here is the explanation. Let's read the third feature. Technique of index numbers measures changes in one variable or group of related variables. So we can compare same thing. We are comparing different prices of different commodities, so we can use this. So one type of index number is price index. In this we compare the price changes. So price index measure of relative price changes consisting of a series of numbers arranged so that a comparison between the values for any two periods or places will show the average change in price between periods or the average difference in price between places. So it says it gives us the relative change in the price of any commodity. So for that we need some reference price. For example, if I am buying some commodity today at 190 rupees, and in next year it will cost 170 rupees, so we can make out that the price is decreasing in this. Instead of directly saying that the price is decreasing, we can use index number, which is a unitless quantity. So index price indexes were first developed to measure changes in the cost of living in order to determine the wage increase necessary to maintenance and constant standard of living. So one of the famous price indexes, Laspeyres price index. This is how he looks, a portrait of Anti and Laspeyres. So Laspeyres price index proposed by German economist Etienne Laspeyres for measuring current prices or quantities in relation to those of selected base period. So we are finding the price index relative to the base period. So base period is our reference year, that is the previous year. Let's see its formula. So okay, so it says that a Laspeyres price index is computed by taking the ratio of the total cost of purchasing a specified group of commodity at current year prices to the cost of that same group at base year price by multiplying by 100. So we are multiplying that ratio by 100 to convert it to percentages. So what is it? Suppose I'm buying 3 or 4 commodities at some price in previous year. So I'll find it out how much money I have uh, spent to buy those 3 or 4 uh, commodities. So it comes say 1050 rupees in previous year. Now the same quantity I want to buy in next year, but I came to know that the price is increased. So how much in total money I'm spending to buy the same quantity now? Say this time, that in future I'm going to spend 1900. So I'll divide the future money 1900 divided by the previous money spent, that is 1050 rupees into 100. So that ratio or that percentage will give me a Laspeyres price index. The base year index is thus 100. So if you calculate the price index for base year, it will come always 100, because we are dividing it by the same numerator and denominator will be the same quantity. And periods with higher price level have index number greater than 100. So if the numerator is having greater value, my price index, Laspeyres price index, will be greater than 100. So we will see this by calculation also. Formula for the Laspeyres price index. The formula for Laspeyres price index is as follows. The summation price index is equal to summation P1 into P0 upon summation P0 into Q0 into 100. Let's see what is P0. P0 is the price of individual item at the base period, and P1 is the price of individual item at the observation period or the current year. So these are just the previous price and the current price of some commodity. And what is Q0? Q0 is the quantity of the individual item at the base period. So how much quantity of that commodity I am buying. So let's take an example. So example says that the following information regarding the change in prices and quantities of each individual goods in hypothetical economy is provided. Determine the Laspeyres price index for year 0, year 1 and year 2 using this year as base year. So year 0 is my reference year. So my calculation will be with respect to this year. This is my reference year. Everything I'm going to calculate with respect to the 0th year. So I'm buying good A, good B and good C. What are the price? Let's see. In year 0, the good A was rupees 4, rupees 5, rupees 10, rupees 20. Next year, means in year 1, the price increase to rupees 10, rupees 12 and 25. Then again next year the price of good A decreases by rupees 3, it increases by rupees 1, decrease by rupees 1. And how many quantities I am buying? So for my reference year, I'm going to calculate everything with respect to these quantities. So these are the quantities. So these are the price. So these are the price and these are the quantities. So these are Q naught, and these are the prices. So let me mention. So all these are prices P naught, and these are the Q naught. And if you want to find Laspeyres price index for year 1, so these price will be my P1. And if you want to find Laspeyres year index, price index for this year with respect to this base year, so these prices will be my P1. So let's see the calculation part. So we have to find Laspeyres index number for the base year. So my base year is year 0. So what is the Laspeyres index number for base year itself? You have to add, you have to take sum, sorry, okay. So price index for year 0, how much money you have spent in 0th year to buy this much quantity. How much money you have spent to buy this much quantity in base year? So you have spent rupees 5 for every kg. For 1 kg rupees 5, so total money spent to buy 100 kgs of good A is this much, and good B this much. So total money spent is this. And since you are calculating the price index for base year, you are going to divide by the same thing because it is relative to itself. So in 200, so these two will be cancelled, and 200 it comes 100. So this is always fixed for base year. Laspeyres price index is always 100. Now let's calculate Laspeyres price index for year 1. Now we have to find Laspeyres price index for year 1, where my base year is 0 year. So this is my base year and this is my current year. My calculations will be with respect to this year, and these are the quantities I have bought in 0 year, and I want to buy these quantities again in current year. So what is the price rise for buying these commodities? That thing is given by Laspeyres index, price index number for year 1. So let's calculate by this formula. Okay, so my total cost I have to pay in current year to buy the same quantity in current year I'm sorry. So I have to pay this much amount in the current year. So 10 rupees. So 1 kg of good A, 1 kg of good A will cost me rupees 10. And I want to buy same amount, 100 kg. So how much I have to pay? 10 into 100. And I want to buy 200 kgs of good B, but the price is rupees 12. How much I have to pay? This much. Similar with this much. Total money I have to spend from my pocket is this much. What happens in previous year? How much I have paid? This much. So this is something relative. Let's convert this thing to percentage. So let's multiply this by 100. It comes 128.2. So my price index for base year was 10, and price index for first year, year 1, is 128.2. So from here to here I have increase of 28.2. Now let us find the Laspeyres price index for year 2. So there's a mistake, I have to write year 2. So Laspeyres price index for year 2 is same thing. The base in denominator I'll be having same quantity, same money spent in year 0, because everything I'm calculating with respect to my base year 0. How much money I have to pay to buy the same quantity at this rates? 7, 13, 14. The total money is this, converted to percentage. So it comes here. So from 128, this time it's 123.5. So these are the price indexes. Let's read further. So therefore the price indexes were as follows for each year. For year 0 it is 100, that is always 100. For year 1, 128. For year 2, 123.5. The index generally uses a base year of 100 to analyze the index. An index greater than 100 implies the rise in prices, and an index less than 100 implies a fall in prices. Very easy to understand this point. Year 0 will be termed as the base year, while calculating year will be termed as observation year period or the current year. The last point, it is more used by economists to analyze the economic growth of the country, taking into consideration the inflation in the goods and services. Thank you.